Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Carroll from MyMMAnews.com and Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. Tonight, I am joined by Lateesha Mohl, who will be fighting on June 23rd at the kickboxing series against Jessica Ruiz. Lateesha, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. Glad to see you're getting back inside the ring and competing. Tell us a little bit about this matchup against Jessica Ruiz. She's someone who's fought in Bellator in an MMA fight. This is a kickboxing match, correct?
Correct, yes. This will be my professional kickboxing debut. I think it's a really good matchup. It's been really hard to get matched in general in any of the sports, but this seems like a really fair matchup. It seems pretty even. I know she comes from like a really good New York gym. I know she has some pro MMA fights, and I believe she has a lot of amateur kickboxing fights. So yeah, it should be a really good fight.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You said this is the debut. You're 1-0 in boxing. You've had a bunch of amateur MMA fights. Tell us a little bit about bouncing around, I guess, from boxing, kickboxing, MMA, and how that's kind of helped you develop over the years.
Yeah, so I made a professional kickboxing debut December of 21. And then for 2022, I tried to get matched in boxing. Like promoters were canceling on me, fights were getting canceled for the whole year. It was really frustrating. So I was going through fight camps and fights were getting canceled on me. So I decided at the beginning of this year, I wanted to focus on MMA and kickboxing. Again, kind of going through that same struggle of not being able to get matched a lot. So I'm really happy that this match happened for me. I think my background with pro boxing is definitely going to help. I've had almost 2 years of just pure boxing training, and my preferred style is kickboxing. So to put the boxing with the kickboxing together, it's really helped me.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit where you've been training and who you've been training with.
Yeah, so for kickboxing, MMA, and jujitsu, I train at Gracie 717 in Lancaster. Damian Puopolo is the jujitsu coach and owner of the gym. I train with Allison Ferrari, who is a purple belt. She's the other female at the gym that I mainly train with. And then for kickboxing, Christian Carr, Zach Kelly, Jake Kelly, my boyfriend Jeff are my main training partners. And I do some cross training with Algios and King of Prussia. I go there for some sparring. And I've also visited TKO Fitness today to get some mitt work with Ryan Gaffaro. So I've really been traveling, but it's been worth it to get the work in.
Awesome, awesome. And this fight's going to be taking place on June 23rd at Melrose Ballroom in Queens, New York. Doors are supposed to open at 6 p.m. This bout is taking place at 120 pounds. How's the weight cut for you? Is that an issue, or you just kind of hover around there?
Weight cut's usually not an issue for me. The lowest I will go is 120 pounds. I fight at 122 in boxing and
Okay.
125 in MMA. And for some reason, when I tell them I fight at 125 pounds, they send me matchups for 115. And I'm not going to do that to myself. It's
Hmm.
not worth it. So I did accept this fight at 120. I will make that exception. But again, I just want to fight. So I'm willing to cut that little bit of extra weight. It's not going to be an issue.
Do you feel more comfortable when you're fighting at a 125 and not trying to stretch it? Because a lot of people feel, they claim I feel bigger when I'm at a lower weight. You sacrifice a lot of things to cut the weight and get down, but then fight day you come back up a little bit. Is this just something you're just more comfortable fighting at that weight?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed that whether I fight at 115 or 125, the girls I'm fighting tend to be bigger than me either way. So why would I kill myself to be the smaller person when I can be strong and fast and be the stronger or the smaller person still? So yeah, I just feel more comfortable. I feel like I have better cardio, better strength all around.
Okay. Tell us, I guess, some of your goals for your career overall, whether it's kickboxing, MMA. Where do you want to? Which sport, I guess, do you want to go further in?
It's kind of whatever sport I can go further in at this point. Like I said, matching's been really hard. My heart is definitely with kickboxing and MMA, but I'll take whatever I can get. I'd love to make a professional MMA debut. I think with this kickboxing fight, it's going to get my foot in the door and kind of on that pro channel, so people will finally see me as the pro kickboxer. So I'm hoping that opens up some more avenues for me. But I'm really willing to take it either way or any way that I can.
And your last MMA fight was an amateur against Rosie DiMatteo. You won via TKO KO in a minute 27 seconds in round two. I see on your Instagram you talk about the motivation that's provided for you in your caption. Tell us a little bit about that, getting that win. You went through a string of losses as an amateur, but that win definitely, I think, kind of helped you and propelled you into your professional career. And you get a win in boxing, and now you're looking to make your debut in kickboxing. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that one was a long time coming. I've been in the sport for a long time, and I think people just know me from my earlier amateur fights. And it's not to knock, the gym that I was with or anything like that. I just was taking fights I shouldn't have been taking, and I wasn't training how I should have been training. But I can make excuses for every fight. There's no excuse. I lost fair and square in all of those 7 fights. So to come back and win with a TKO, I mean, it was beyond what I even expected. But it was a long time coming. Like, I honestly put the work in for that. I deserved it. I put the mental, physical work into it. I had my team behind me the whole camp. Like, I had a great camp. I had great coaches, a great gym. So that was I needed that win. I think that really did push me into my pro career, like you said.
Awesome. Yeah, and then you got that unanimous decision in the boxing against Amber Swift.
Yeah.
And now you're making the kickboxing pro debut against Jessica Ruiz. What are some of the challenges you believe Jessica presents to you?
So right off the bat, we know that she's a southpaw. So that's something that I think any fighter, unless you are a southpaw, that's something we're not used to. The majority of us are right-handed. So yeah, that's one of the things I've kind of had to switch up some of the combinations we use at our gym because we have a name system. So it's just kind of conforming to that different stance. Um, I'd say that's probably the biggest hill to overcome, and then always the mental side of fighting is one of the big things that I'm really, really like a stickler on. But that's been going really well for me for this camp. So I'd say just dealing with that southpaw stance is something that I've really been focusing on.
You just kind of touched on it about what I was going to get into next is the mental aspect and being
Mhm.
focused and just mentally prepared for things. How do you go about getting mentally focused and your mind right before and after a fight?
Yeah, so I'm really open about this online too. I do post a lot about the woman I work with. Her name is Ann Zaprazni. She owns Great Sports Minds LLC. So she is basically a sports mental therapist. So she works with, I mean, any athlete you can think of, mainly
Mhm.
high school students. I was the first fighter she actually worked with, but she works with wrestlers. So we kind of compare in that aspect of the sport. So she, gives me a lot of tools that I can utilize, and mental training is just like physical training. It's something that I work on every single day. I have a set group of things that I do before training, after training, and on days that I don't train, I still try to practice those things. It's just like working a muscle. Your mind is a muscle. So it's really important for me to take the time out of my day. It only takes 10 or 15 minutes. But for me, that's the biggest thing for me throughout the whole camp and before the fight. I have to do it the whole camp or it's not gonna work.
Gotcha. Okay, because I know like sports psychology and the mental aspect of sports is so involved. I know, like college football, you get Iowa painting the locker room pink, thinking it's going to affect the way players play and whatnot. There's so much that goes into it, and I feel like a lot of times being that MMA and combat sports is kind of a newer sport, kind of gets left behind sometimes, and it's that's there's so much involvement in it in a sport like this where a lot of times your thoughts are left to yourself. I'm sure, as you know, and the highs and the lows, as you see in that movie Southpaw. No pun
Mhm.
intended, but he's by himself after he loses, and then when he's winning, everyone's next to him. So
Exactly.
I'm sure you've experienced that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I've been on the luckier end of the stick. I've always had support from the beginning,
Awesome.
especially from like my parents, my uncle Tony. Like they're at every single fight that they can make. Like they've rarely missed a fight, so they've been there through all those losses and still decided to show up for the next fight that I was going to go into. So I've gotten lucky on that side of things, but I've also seen the other side of it where people are nasty, people are mean, and people online they don't they're not at your like face to face with you. They'll just
Mhm.
say whatever they want to say to hurt you. So I've experienced both ends of it, but I've been really lucky to still have that support even through the losses. But I would say I'm dealing with it a lot better now, although I haven't lost in quite some time. I still deal with, the rough days of training a lot better. I'm driving home by myself. I usually get home and I'm by myself. So using those mental tools that she gives me kind of helps me deal with, that aspect of it too.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you use outside of training in the gym or speaking with someone to help you mentally? Is there anything else you use to kind of hone in on like breathing? Like I know a lot of people use yoga. Anything else like that?
Yeah, so I meet with like my sports therapist, and I meet with her once a week for like a session. But some of the things she has me do involve a lot of breathing. So I meditate. I do a lot of
Okay.
meditation. I meditate like every time before I train. I do a meditation. I have one that's 5 minutes long, and then I have one that's a little longer if I have more time. But I always try to do that before I train. I have the different breathing techniques. We've been messing around with the tapping meditation where you can tap different like parts of your face or your hands.
Okay.
It's supposed to help with like anxiety and things like that. So I've really been enjoying that. And then after I train or at the end of my day, I also journal about my day. So they're prompted questions. It's the same questions every day. And I just go through and answer and journal everything about the day.
Awesome. What's something about you that nobody knows but you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh,
It could
I
be
don't know.
anything. Anything doesn't have to be combat sports related.
Yeah. Um, that's a good question. I guess probably the thing that well, maybe some people know this. I am in college for respiratory therapy, and I graduate
Oh,
in
cool.
August. So I will be a
Awesome.
respiratory therapist in August. That's kind of a newer thing in my life. I don't post about it too much. Um, that's probably the most exciting thing I could tell you.
That's got to be pretty difficult though to can balance school life, work, training. How do you go about balancing everything throughout your time, your boyfriend? I'm sure there's time there.
Yeah, it's tricky, and the college program I'm in is year round, so we go through the summer semester. So I just started my summer semester last week, and my fight is going to fall right in line with that summer semester. So it's tough, it's tricky, it's long days, it's not a whole lot of sleep, and then I work on the weekends because I have to live. So I
Yep.
serve on the weekends, and I also work an internship at a hospital that is so that's on top of all that, and then my training. So it's pretty much packed Sunday to Sunday every week. I spend time with my boyfriend on the weekends. He lives a little far from me, so I get down to him on the weekends. We also train at the same gym, so that's kind of
Yeah.
nice. And he's getting ready for a fight on June 10th, so we're each other's main training partners. So we get to see each other throughout the week. So that's really cool. I like to share that with him.
Awesome. Where's he competing at?
So he'll be fighting for Gut Check on June 10th. That's in Newark, Delaware. They just had a card about 2 weeks ago. But yeah, he'll be on the June 10th card.
Very cool. Very cool. So that's cool. So that's kind of like time you guys get to spend together. Being
Mhm.
that you, like you mentioned, he lives a little further away from you, but training at the same gym, you get to see each other.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Tell us what inspires you. You just mentioned that sounds like a lot to balance between school, work, training, boyfriend, everything going on. What inspires you to just keep up, get up, and do this, and continue competing every day?
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't say so much like I don't have inspiration every day. Like there's a lot of days where I'm like, man,
Hmm.
I don't want to train, I don't want to study, I don't want to go to work. Like I don't want to do any of this. I would say it's more discipline. I've always been a disciplined person. Um, but at the end of the day, I just kind of try to think of my end goal. Like I want to go out there in my fight knowing that I've done every single possible thing I possibly could to get ready for this. Like I will have zero doubt in my mind. I went and worked on my tired days. I went and gave it my best on my strong days. I think it's really like the end goal, just making sure that I have that confidence in myself that I did everything I possibly could.
Awesome. And being a woman who's been competing since 2016, which is quite some time, what
Yeah.
would you say to any other young woman who's trying to get into the sport and compete, what would be some advice for you would have for them, whether it's what gym to join, how to compete, how to pick fights? What would be something you would say to them?
So I would say either way, whether you plan on being competitive or not, I think every woman should take jujitsu or some kind of self defense. Especially, with the way the world is today, you never know what's going to
Hmm.
happen. Human trafficking is a real thing. That's one thing I am like super paranoid about. So I think any woman, actually any person, male or female, should do some kind of training, some kind of self defense. I think jujitsu is great for women. I train at Gracie 717 in Lancaster. There's a lot of good gyms in Philly. There's a lot of good gyms everywhere. It's really just preference at that point. And then girls that want to compete, if you're in high school, get into wrestling. That is finally a huge thing for women. There's women's teams, like get into wrestling. If you want to do MMA, you can get into the striking later or at the same time. And then it's really just finding a gym that cares about you and finding a coach that cares about you and will protect you when it comes to matchmaking.
Awesome. Yeah, because there's so many times you see, not just women, but all fighters get in there competing, and they probably shouldn't be in with us, with their opponent. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter how many, if they have the same amount of wins or losses, but you can just tell there's a difference in levels and talent and stuff, and a lot of times it gets people in trouble. Unfortunately.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was there with literally my first 8 MMA fights. Like I should not have been fighting any of those people. So, I'm real big on making sure you find a coach or a manager or someone who knows what they're talking about and actually cares about you.
Absolutely. Now, how often do you? I know you mentioned this earlier. You're struggling to find fights and women who want to compete against you. But if you had an opportunity to compete as often as you want, how often would you want to compete this year?
I'd like to. I mean, I have the kickboxing fight in June.
Hmm.
I'd love to make a pro MMA debut maybe after I graduate, so like September, somewhere in there, and then, maybe another one in the winter. So I'd say at least 3 times this year. I kind of started late in the year, but I wasn't able to find anything until now. So,
Hmm.
I'd like to get at least another 1 or 2 in after this kickboxing fight.
Awesome, awesome. Which of you said you like kickboxing and MMA more? What about those two do you enjoy more than boxing or any other Muay Thai or anything like that?
So I don't want to knock boxing because I actually had a lot of fun boxing. I just feel like my kickboxing is so good and something that I genuinely like. I don't have to think about it. Like you can tell me to fix something and I'm gonna fix it. I don't have to think about it. It just works for me. And in boxing, boxing is just punches. So I'm not utilizing my kicks. I'm not utilizing my knees. I'm not utilizing my wrestling. I've been doing a lot of jujitsu competitions. I'm not utilizing any of those skills that I've been working on for years. So to me, I just kind of felt like I was going back, like progressing backwards. Whereas, kickboxing obviously transitions great into MMA. I've been doing a lot of no-gi work in MMA and competing a lot against higher belts, working on cage work and things like that. So I just feel like I'm progressing all of those skill sets forward. So why would I not use them? Why would I not compete in that and do that? And I have a lot of fun training in those, and I have a lot of good training in those that I can get. So not to knock boxing. I really like it. I still train at my boxing gym about twice a week for this fight. It's
Okay.
great cardio. Yeah, I'm still there. I'm still present. I'm not against boxing. I just really want to get my foot in the door with kickboxing and MMA. I think I have a lot more opportunities in those two.
Absolutely awesome. Lateesha, do you have anyone sponsoring you or anything like that, to kind of help pay the bills for you?
So I don't have the list up. I have like 17 sponsors
Oh,
that from
awesome. Good for
last
you.
year that when I was supposed to fight, I got sponsors. It was for boxing fights, so I got, this beautiful boxing outfit made with all my sponsors on it and that did help me through the camps, but I didn't fight. So I'm still honoring those same sponsors for this fight since they didn't get, their airtime on the outfit. I did have to get a different outfit made because that boxing outfit's not going to hold up in a kickboxing fight. But all of my sponsors are still on there. They're still on my jacket. I'd like to thank all of my sponsors. I can't name all of them because I can't remember all of them, but I post them on my Instagram and everywhere. I make sure I give them 100% credit, and they're great. I have a lot of sponsors that sponsor me every fight, and I love anyone that's willing to support.
That's awesome. It's awesome that you're getting that much support. How trying to get sponsors, because that's a part of the sport that I think a lot of people don't understand, the marketing, the branding of yourself, getting sponsors to kind of help pay off camp and stuff. Um, what about that has been successful for you? What have you done to make yourself successful in getting sponsors?
Yeah, sponsors, I feel like a lot of amateurs are like, oh, well, I'm just an amateur, I shouldn't get sponsors, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the worst they're gonna say is no, I'm not gonna sponsor you.
Hmm.
I'm all about I will go up and ask, oh, you have a company? Do you guys sponsor? I'm a local athlete. I give them the whole spiel, who I am, what I do. My sponsorships are not expensive. My sponsorships are I advertise on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I actually tag your pages. I tag you if you don't have a page. I try to send people your way, like actively. I really do try to send people to my sponsors. So and then I start to build a community out of that. A lot of those sponsors come back. I build relationships, and not everyone has that outgoing personality. I mean, I get it. It's kind of like a business relationship if you think about it. So if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, you should have someone really try to reach out and do it for you. It doesn't hurt to ask. The most people are actually really willing to do it, and they just don't know that they can.
Absolutely. And I know you got some T-shirts coming out. I believe they're out already, right?
Yeah, so again, these were t-shirts that I had made for a fight last year that got canceled. So we're just gonna stick with the theme. My outfit will match those shirts. The drawing was made by Chad Knight. He's a tattoo artist in Philadelphia. He does amazing work. So he drew the design, and then MMA Tico put the whole shirt together for me. So those are up. The links on my Instagram, or you can go to mmmatico.com and look for my name. I have a couple of different designs up, but the red and gold demon shirt will match my outfit if you want to match my fight outfit.
Awesome, awesome. Lateesha, any last words? Prediction. How do you see this fight going? How do you see it finishing for you?
I don't like to be cocky, but and I never want to underestimate my opponent. So I try to keep a pretty fair mind. I do a lot of visualization, so I always visualize, going the distance. I visualize possible finishes. I think that I have a lot of power in my punches and my kicks. Love to get a finish. My teammate Jake Kelly just got a finish a couple weeks ago. I would love to be right up there with him. Either way, I'm ready to fight a whole fight. I'm ready to give it all I got. I'm ready to put on an exciting fight. So I think either way, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Would love to get a finish, but again, we'll see what happens.
Awesome. If people want to get tickets for K Series Kickboxing, do they go to you? Should they go to a website? Where should they go for tickets?
Please come to me. I'm on Instagram at Tisha Squisha MMA or on Facebook at Lateesha Mohl. I have a link that I get credit for. So please come to me if you want to get tickets, if you want to come. And then my link for my shirts is also on my social media. So you can find everything on there.
Awesome. Well, Lateesha, it's always been a pleasure chatting with you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to watch Lateesha fight Jessica Ruiz, June 23rd at Melrose Ballroom in Queens, definitely go check it out. Like I said, doors open at 6 p.m. K Series Kickboxing making your debut in kickboxing. Wish you the best of luck. Looking forward to seeing you get in there. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go that weekend. I got a wedding coming up that weekend, so I won't be able to be there. But if it's streaming, I'm going to try and find it online. So
Yeah,
best of
I
luck.
don't know about the streaming. I would assume it probably will be streamed though. So that would be awesome.
Awesome. Any last words?
No, thanks so much for having me on. It's always great to come on and talk about this stuff. So I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. This is Kyle Carroll with MyMMAnews.com and Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. We are signing off.